Hi, sixth graders. This is Mrs. Hebert again, and we are doing the last lesson of Module 16, which is 16.5, and we're talking about histograms today. So this is a short lesson. You are going to just need 3 sections on your paper, and you'll be good. In box number 1, you're going to write the definition of a histogram. A histogram is a type of bar graph whose bars represent the frequency of numeric data within intervals. In box number 2, we're going to talk about grouping data in intervals, okay? So we're going to look at some free throws that were made by each player out of 50 attempts. So one player made 25, 2 players made 29, 1 player made 30, and so on. So I'm going to use the dot plot to represent the data. So I'm going to start there, okay? And I'm going to say, okay, on here, let me get my pen out. I'll use red to go over here. So I have 25, 2 29s, a 30, a 33, a 34, 2 35s, a 36, a 39, 42, and a 44. So that's my dot plot, okay? Now, I'm going to use a chart and I'm going to identify the intervals in the frequency, okay? And intervals are equal ranges of numbers. So they have to be equal ranges of numbers. So I can see on my number line that I'm going from 25 to 44. And so if I'm looking at good ranges, I might decide to go from like 20 to 29 for a range in intervals of 10, and then 30 to 39, and then 40 to 49. Now, I could break that up differently. I could have more intervals with smaller ranges, but just for the purposes of what we're doing right now, I'm doing a little bit bigger intervals of 10. And you'll notice, they're not all on, like 20 is not on the number line, but I know where it would be, and 49 is not on the number line, but I know where it would be. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to box those intervals. So I'm going to create a box around 20 through 29 on my number line. Okay. And then from 30 to 39, just to give myself a visual idea of where my intervals are. And then from 40 to 49, which we don't go all the way up to 49, but there are my intervals. I have 3 intervals here. So I look at the first interval of 20 to 29 and I count how many times how many free throws, how many players made, free throws in that range, that number of free throws in that range. So from 20 to 29, you can see there are 3 dots, so my frequency is 3. From 30 to 39, my frequency is 7 because I have 7 dots. And from 40 to 49, my frequency is 2 because I just have 2 dots there. And so now I have 3 intervals or equal ranges and how many times the player scored within those intervals. In box number 3, we're going to go a step further and we're going to use the interval and frequency chart to make a histogram. Okay, I didn't leave enough room at the top for my dot plot. You don't have to use a dot plot. You could just take these numbers up here. Let me see if I can change my color here. So I could just take those numbers and I could count up, count them up. I wouldn't have to create a dot plot. But I'm going to plot those numbers on a number line just to make it easier for me visually. So I'm going to go down here. You can do yours right underneath. Okay, so let me change my color. I'm going to create a number line. And my number line, my smallest value is 1. And my highest value is 14. So I need to have at least 1 through 14 on my number line. 7 is halfway through, and then I'm going to try to get these as even as I can, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, and I'm going to number these just every other number so that I can keep track of what I'm graphing. 13 and 14 will be right next to each other, but that's okay. Okay, So now I'm going to plot those numbers for the number of birds at each day. So the first number is 12, so I'll put that right here. Then 3, then 8, 1 and 1, 6 and 10, 14, 3, 6, 2, 1, 3, 2, and 7. So when I count that up, I want to make sure I included them all. So if I go here, I say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 values. I should have 15 dots. So I'm going to count them down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So yes, it looks like I got all the values on my dot plot. Okay, now, because I have my ranges from 1 to 14, I have to come up with equal ranges for each interval. And there really isn't, aside, I could do intervals of 2, okay? But then I'd have to create more bar graphs. So just for the sake of making it a little easier, I'm going to do intervals of 4. So I'm going to do 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, and 13 through 16. Now, I don't have any values that are as high as 16, but I have some values in that range. And so that's fine. But like I said, I could make different intervals. That doesn't really matter, as long as they're even ranges within each interval. So I did intervals of 4. Okay, so now I'm going to count up. I'm going to separate my intervals. So 1 through 4, I'm going to go here. 5 through 8, I'm going to box that up. 9 through 12, and then 13 through 16. Okay, now I can see my ranges, how many values are in each range very easily. So for the range 1 through 4, I count those up and I have 8. For 5 through 8, I have 4. 9 through 12, I have 2. And 13 through 16, I have 1. Okay, and again, I count those, I have 12, 14, 15 values, so I'm good. Now, I'm going to make a histogram, and I'm going to have to use a different color because I'm going to have to overlap because I goofed. You'll be able to see it better on my final copy. But I'm going to put, the intervals go along the horizontal axis at the bottom, so I'm going to do 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and I'm sorry that this is overlapping, 9 through 12, and 13 through 16. Those are my intervals. They go at the bottom. Now, my frequency goes on the vertical on the left, so I'm going to go by 2s. So 2, 4, 6, and 8. I could go by 1s, but just to save space, I'm going by 2s, okay? So now what I do is I graph those and I go, and I'm going to use a little bit thicker color. Okay, let's see if I can maybe just do something like this, a little bit bigger. So for 1 through 4, I have 8 frequencies. So I'm going to use my bar graph and I'm going to create a bar graph up to 8. Then I'm going to change the color. For 5 through 8, I'm going to go up, there are 4 times. And so my bars touch each other, but they don't overlap. For 9 through 12, I have 2. Create a bar. And for 13 through 16, I have 1. Okay? And so that's a histogram. And so that shows me, the frequency of what I'm looking at, of my data. Okay, and this is what your paper should look like when you're done. This is a much neater version, so hopefully you can check it over and see if there's anything different here that you would like to look at. I think on this one I did not include the dot plot for the third box, but that's okay. I think you'll get the idea. Okay, have a good day. That's it.